Millions tuned in expecting another polished, polite, and carefully controlled political discussion. What they received instead was an unforgettable collision that no one in America could have scripted. It happened without warning, in real time, under the hot studio lights of a primetime broadcast. The set was dressed in elegance. The polished mahogany table, the deep navy backdrop, the neat rows of cameras arranged like silent witnesses. Everything looked ordinary. But then Representative Jasmine Crockett quietly reached down, slid a slim folder onto the desk, and history shifted in a single motion. Across from her sat Melania Trump, poised in the way the public had come to know, measured still, her expression carefully crafted. But the moment the folder appeared, a flicker broke through. A quick blink, a faint tightening around the lips, an almost imperceptible shift in her posture. It was small enough that casual viewers might have missed it, but to those watching closely, it was the first crack, the momentary shiver before the storm. The cameras rolled on. The host, veteran journalist Mark Hanley, kept his professional, smile fixed, though even he seemed to sense something had been set in motion that he could not contain. His fingers tapped the edge of his notes as he glanced from one woman to the other, weighing whether to interrupt or to simply let the drama unfold. Jasmine Crockett did not raise her voice. She didn't lean forward or make a grand gesture. Instead, she opened the folder slowly, deliberately. A hush seemed to fall across the studio, though the audience had been instructed to remain silent long before broadcast. She slid one page, free, placed it gently on the table, and said only 6 words. "Perhaps we should start with this." For a fraction of a second, nothing happened. Then Melania's composure wavered again, her eyes narrowing, her jaw tightening as she recognized the document. Viewers at home had no idea what the page contained, but they could feel the tension ripple through the screen. Something unspoken passed between the two women. A history, a truth, a challenge that had never been confronted in such a public arena. Mark Hanley cleared his throat, trying to regain control. "Representative Crockett," he began, "for the sake of our audience, could you clarify what exactly?" But Jasmine cut him off, not with volume, but with precision. "This," she said, tapping the paper with a single finger, "is the part of the story that's been kept hidden. Tonight, it doesn't stay hidden any longer." The red light above the central camera burned bright, signaling live transmission. Across the country, millions of televisions glowed in living rooms, bars, dormitories, and offices. Viewers leaned forward in their chairs. Phones buzzed as people texted friends and family, "Turn on Capitol Roundtable right now." Something historic was unfolding, and nobody wanted to miss it. Melania shifted again, visibly unsettled. She opened her mouth as though to respond, then closed it. For years, she had navigated the public eye with carefully chosen words and deliberate restraint. But here, in this moment, silence seemed to betray more than speech could. The audience felt it, the host felt it, and Jasmine knew it. She slid another document free, this time not placing it on the table, but holding it lightly between her fingers. The camera zoomed in, catching the faint seal at the top of the page, the suggestion of an official letterhead. The internet erupted instantly. Screenshots flooded Twitter, hashtags multiplied by the second. People speculated wildly about what the papers contained. Financial records, private correspondence, something explosive enough to rattle even the most insulated figures in politics. Mark Hanley raised his hand, his practiced voice steady but tinged with urgency. "Representative, I must insist. We cannot just wave documents in front of cameras without context. What exactly are you alleging here?" Jasmine turned toward him, calm and steady. "I'm not alleging," she replied. "I'm revealing." The words landed like a strike. The studio seemed to exhale as everyone processed the weight of that sentence. Melania finally spoke, her voice lower than usual, carrying the faint trace of an accent sharpened by tension. "This is inappropriate. she said firmly. "This is not how we discuss serious matters, not with rumors, not with theatrics," but Jasmine didn't flinch. "Theatrics," she echoed, her tone even, "is what people in power have relied on for too long. Smiles for the cameras, silence behind closed doors. That ends tonight." The room felt suddenly smaller, as though the walls themselves had drawn closer. Every person in the studio, from cameramen to producers in the control booth, was locked in place, unwilling to breathe too loudly for fear of breaking the spell. And then Jasmine did something unexpected. She didn't attack. She didn't raise her voice. She simply slid the second page across the table, stopping just within Melania's reach. The gesture was quiet, almost gentle, but it carried the force of inevitability. Melania hesitated, her manicured hand hovering above the paper before finally lowering. She glanced down, and for the briefest instant, something unmistakable crossed her face. Recognition. That was all it took. Millions at home saw it. A flicker of recognition, and with it, confirmation. The internet caught fire. Commentators scrambled to interpret. Was it a letter? A contract? A record that tied her to decisions she had long distanced herself from? No one knew yet, but everyone knew it mattered. Jasmine leaned back in her chair, her voice steady as ever. The truth has a way of surfacing no matter how many people try to bury it. Tonight America gets to see for themselves. The host tried again to intervene, but the moment had already escaped his control. This wasn't an interview anymore. It was a reckoning broadcast live to an entire nation. For the next 45 minutes, the broadcast veered away from its scripted questions. Jasmine didn't reveal every detail, but she revealed enough to send shockwaves through the political landscape, enough to shake the image Melania had carefully cultivated, enough to make it clear that this was not a routine evening of television. It was the unraveling of a story that had been quietly waiting in the shadows. By the time the program ended, phones were ringing in newsrooms across the country. Analysts were called into late-night meetings. Headlines exploded onto every major platform. Jasmine Crockett exposes hidden truths on live TV. Melania caught off guard in primetime showdown. America witnesses history unfold in real time. Back in the studio, as the cameras powered down and the lights dimmed, the silence was deafening. Melania stood first, smoothing her jacket, her expression once again composed, but her eyes betraying the storm within. Jasmine remained seated, calm, her hands folded neatly on the desk. She didn't need to say anything more. The night had spoken for itself, and across the nation, millions of viewers knew they had just seen the beginning of something much larger. The folder had been opened. The story had only just begun,